ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, collectors of all ages. Welcome back to AussieVerse, where today we are going through the MCU with Thor #1. I am OmniBeau, joined by Ryan and Grodd Watson. How are you, boys?
Good to be back.
Yeah, good. Fresh year. We'll get through this MCU universe and catch up. Interested to go through a few more of these movies, see how they age up.
If you do want to interact with us on Instagram, then you can hit us up on at AussieVerse_Comx, where you can also find our graphic designer and thumbnail creator and editor, A51_designs. All right, take it away, guys.
So what was everyone's view rewatching this going in? What was your memories of this movie, and what were you expecting going into rewatching this, do you reckon?
I always enjoyed it, and I expected to enjoy it again.
Rob?
I've always thought it's the most underrated Phase 1 Marvel movie. And I think it still sits in that position as the most underrated one. And I think that of the 3 origin story movies that we get, it's my favorite one.
Yeah, okay. Well, I can obviously respect all those opinions. I went in, I remember liking Thor a lot when it first came through, because when it first came out, 2011-ish. So,
yeah, around there.
Yeah, so I didn't know much about Thor. So when I knew the actor was an Aussie, Chris Hemsworth, so I was going, oh yeah, From Home and Away, and so I thought I'd watch it, and I thought back then it was really good, and I enjoyed it. It was a really, really good experience. So going into it, I had high hopes. Rewatching it, it was just okay. I mean, like, it was an origin story. It was a bit stale in some areas, but to be honest, I do think it's the best out of the Thor movies. But we'll rewatch the other ones, and I'll make an opinion then. But yeah, still enjoyed it.
I think the best thing going back and rewatching one of the early Thor movies is the fact that we've been presented with such comedic sides of this franchise now that when you go back and watch Thor 1 and 2 respectively, it's such a different tone in movie, and it's actually really appealing. I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, does this mean we're never going to get a big, serious Lord of the Rings type Thor-like movie again? Not that we ever really got that in the first place, but you get my point, though. Are we never going to be able to reach that height with Thor because Marvel, Hollywood, whatever, thinks that the only thing we want from Thor now is the jester?
I would say that, in a sense, this and Thor: The Dark World are the Lord of the Rings-esque Thor movies. This one specifically is Thor through the lens of Shakespeare. And I think the Shakespearean tragedy of the movie elevates it a bit.
Yeah. I think while rewatching this, I realised too, with that comedy aspect that you're talking about, is the fact is the side characters handle the comedy aspect, like the Volstagg and Sif and his buddies that he fights with. They carry the sort of aspect.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I hadn't myself picked up on that. But yeah, and I think that's where it should stay. I mean, I think the reason why the comedic aspect works with Thor by the time we get to Thor 3 is because the whole funny part of it is that it's not meant to be funny. So when things are funny, it makes them funny because they're not meant to be funny, you know. Where now that you're expecting that to be funny, it's just not funny anymore. And it's a really hard thing for, I guess, Marvel, Hollywood, a director, a writer to be able to understand and make something that's successful, knowing that those diameters. But yeah, like it's just not going to work all the time, I don't think.
I would say that the main reason it didn't work in Love and Thunder is because, well, by the end of Endgame, Thor has outgrown that. In Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Endgame, you get this story for Thor about him using humor as a crutch. He loses, and then he has to come back again.
Yeah.
And when you get to Love and Thunder, it's just, that's all done now. We're just going to retread that whole thing. We're going to remake Thor 1, but in a worse way.
And how long was Marvel with Paramount for? Because I noticed that it's been the first few movies, and obviously I'm not going to check the movies after this one, but they all start with Paramount movies.
I think the last one's Avengers, I think.
Oh, that'd make sense. Okay, cool. Yeah, that was just something that I've noticed that I don't think I'd ever picked up on before, or if I did, I'd forgotten.
But Thor 1 as well, it's one of those movies that it becomes more and more important the further in we get, I'd say, and the more and more it's referenced. Because at the end of the day, Thor 1 is the movie that sets up the Avengers.
Yeah, that is true.
And I'd say it does a better job of that than something like Iron Man 2.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too. It's hard to say about Captain America and the other ones that we haven't re-seen through this series yet, but so far, yeah, comparing it to Iron Man 2, yeah, 100%. The thing that I did notice is that, you know, in the storyline, Odin turns around and says, "Only one of you can."
Yeah, I think
what does he say?
is.
Only one of you can ascend to the throne, but both of you were born to be king. What a prick, man! Like, that's just starting the world's biggest fight with your kids.
Well, that's just how the monarchy works in any fashion. Only one person can be king.
Yeah, but then why say you're both meant to, but only, you know, why didn't say well, you're meant to, and like, you know.
I'd say it's more of a compliment because it shows a sense of character for both characters.
Yeah, but then you don't even need to fast forward. You just wait a few minutes later, like literally a few minutes later, and Thor is next in line to be king.
It's essentially just saying you are both really good men and would both make really great leaders, but Thor has seniority. That's all it is.
Seniority, okay. I don't know about that. Just sounds dodgy to me. Like, how can you not meet your father and your brother and have a chip on your shoulder?
And at this point, he doesn't even know he's adopted, so he thinks he's a biological kid of our.
Yeah, exactly, which makes it worse.
Not really.
You don't think so? You don't think if you're an adopted kid, you'd be like, well, it's fair.
Well, he doesn't know he's an adopted kid yet.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, though. Like, if you knew that you were, though, Thor, you'd be like, okay, well, now it's understandable that Thor gets the throne. But me, I'm an adopted kid, so I'm not going to get that. You made me lose my train of thought now with this, but I know that there is something wrong here with the way that they've been raised, is my point.
Well, ultimately, Thor 1, it's a story about a god having to learn humility in order to come back and better serve his people.
And those eyebrows.
I don't really care about the eyebrows, in all honesty.
There's one eyebrow.
Every time.
No,
Every time you looked at the screen and he had those blonde freaking eyebrows.
no thoughts about it. Like, it just doesn't really impact anything.
It annoyed me. So moving on, I thought this movie did a great job at world building Thor. I honestly think out of all of the origin movies, Thor's probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest one to be able to create onto a screen.
I'd say that Guardians is the hardest one to do because they have to build a whole thing out in space and make you relate to all of those characters.
But with Guardians, though, to me, it's a lot more cut and dry with how you introduce them. Like with Peter Quill's intro, that took, 2 minutes of the movie. And then the rest of them is just dudes from space. It was very simple to be able to introduce them. You didn't really need their origins.
They also needed to relay a lot of information about relationships in that movie. They had to relay a lot of different factions. They had to introduce all these different alien races and different concepts like Celestials and Infinity Stones.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, still, I am very impressed with the world building of Thor. I thought it was really impressive. The whole, Rainbow Bridge, Heimdall with the eyes, Asgard in general, the Nine Realms. I thought it was really, really well done. And it could have been so much worse. Could have been done so much worse. So, yeah, I thought that was really
With the point of, can you see me?
Yep.
Okay. So with the point with Ryan was saying before with Guardians of the Galaxy would be harder. These are characters that we don't know with Guardians of the Galaxy. See, with Thor's a northern mythological thing. So something that's already written can be sometimes harder to do. I think with Guardians of the Galaxy, no one's going to know, like apart from hardcore comic fans, that you just dab in a few races in there of alien races and stuff like that. I think there's a lot more lean room to work with the Guardians of the Galaxy just because of those implications.
I'd also argue that even
at the end
up
of it,
to the
I think
point
Thor's got a lot of pressure.
I'd argue up to the point of the release of the first Thor movie, the most prevalent version of Thor was still the Marvel one.
Yeah, but he's a northern myth, so he's been around
he's
for
a Norway.
hundreds of years.
He's a Norway.
He's
a myth still, but the more prevalent version is the Marvel one. That's the one in the front of people's minds. They don't go, okay, I'm thinking of that Norse god. They go, I'm thinking of that Marvel character.
Yeah, maybe now after.
I just said even before the first Thor movie that's what the people were thinking of.
It's maybe, yeah, as Bo said, maybe now. But if you go to Scotland, they would argue otherwise.
Netherlands.
Yes, Netherlands.
What was your favourite things about this film?
The costumes. They're all pretty good, pretty well done. They all look like they would be fitting for battle. Like you've got the chainmail, and they all look they look like they have a lot of motion to them as well.
Grodd?
Yeah, I would have to say, well, I guess the cast is pretty interesting. The storyline is interesting too. Sort of the outcast, and he has to sort of live with the people. I think that's an interesting part. He has to live with the people. He has no idea how to live upon humanity. I thought that's an interesting part. And the whole science thing mixed in with that, with Jane Foster and stuff like that, I think is pretty cool. So all those bits I enjoyed about it.
My favourite parts were just when he was acting like Thor in Our World, and just how funny that was. Him smashing the glass, for example. Another. I need. What is it? I need sustenance. Like there was a sentence that he said that I really loved. My body is famished. I need sustenance. Just things like that. I really love that. And that's something that I think we miss with the humorous side of Thor in the later movies. We don't really get that sort of humor.
I'd say that the humor in Marvel movies could be a good discussion for another video.
Yeah, true. What's something that you didn't like, if anything?
Yeah, it's really taken.
What was that, mate?
Just the whole what is it? The ice.
Frost giants.
The other villains, the ones that they got that are Loki's father. What are they called again? The ice.
The Frost giants.
Right? So that story arc was a bit of a fizzer, I guess, because they build it up to be maybe they'll go at war again, and just yeah. Maybe they'll go at war again, and they just never did.
Yeah, fair enough. You have a point there, Ryan.
Yep.
I'm gonna be honest. The first Thor movie, I don't really have any major problems with it.
Yeah. Cool. Fair enough. What else you got? I loved it was the first intro to Hawkeye. I loved the whole joke with Meow Meow.
We talk about the casting.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No, you're all right. There's just a major lag with yourself, I think.
Yeah, there is.
So the casting?
Yeah. So the casting. What do you think of the Chris Hemsworth, the Tom Hiddleston, I guess you could say is Anthony Hopkins as well. Another casting that I thought was really good for the time.
The main reason that Anthony Hopkins did this movie as well was because of his grandkids.
Yep. I thought the casting was great. I thought everybody did their job great. Really well done.
Yeah, agree.
And I can't believe that Tom Hiddleston was almost Thor. He auditioned for Thor and then was given the role of Loki.
Mm.
Yeah. He there's still photos on the net of him holding up the hammer, and it just doesn't look good. I think they made the right decision.
Yep, agreed.
Because one would say like Loki's become a more popular character.
Yeah, it's been quite funny, hasn't it? The evolution of Loki.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I reckon that should probably wrap it up then, unless you want to do your scoring. Lost your volume.
Yeah, so what are you going to give it out of 10 if you had to rate it out of 10?
I would give it a...
Lost my volume?
8.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I feel like I say this every time we talk about a Marvel movie, but I don't love giving scores to things because I just feel like the numbers mean different things to different people.
They do.
But I would give it I'd give it an 8, I reckon. 8.5.
Sweet. Grodd?
Okay, so at the end of all this, I guess we add up these scores and then we can rank the MCU movies through this. So that's why, I mean, we've got different perspectives, but this is sort of going to settle arguments of what we think's better than what with movies.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I'm actually only going to give it a 6.5. I didn't enjoy this second time around, so which is just slightly better than Iron Man 2. So
fair enough.
As good as whole. Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to say before we head off? No, cool.
No.
Okay, we will catch you again for the live chat. If not this Thursday, will be the following Thursday. All depends on the news that comes out. Otherwise, we will see you for more videos. Stay tuned, and as always, AussieVerse is for life. Lastly, here is a word from our sponsor, good old Comx.
This show is sponsored by the Comx shop. Check out comx.cx for all things Comx and find out what Comx is all about. We hope you enjoyed the show.